Welcome to Connected, where no topic is off topic. I am your host, Kimberly Dam. Hello, welcome back. So today, this is not the episode if you're looking for me to say something spiritual or intelligent. Because to be honest, I just don't know where it's going to end up. Well, actually I do, because I know what it is that I'm talking about. I want to come forward and tell you what has happened this week. So this week, I officially kind of like outed myself. And I don't like saying that because no, guys, I'm not gay, not a lesbian. But it's weird because I feel like in our society now, whenever we confess who we are in any type of way, shape, or form, we subject ourselves, especially like if you have any type of platform, you subject yourself to being ridiculed, shamed, whatever. So this week, for many of you that know, I really have I don't even really consider social media a part of my life anymore. I do periodically post for another organization, but myself, I really haven't kept that much of a presence as I used to. When COVID came out, I would sporadically go on when I would find interesting articles and stuff that I wanted to share. But other than that, I really haven't said anything personally. And this past week, I decided that it was necessary for me to vocalize that I have not complied to wearing masks. And they are mandated right now in the state of North Carolina. And I have refused, I have not worn one since the beginning of this fiasco. That's what I'm going to call it because it's a disaster. So I expressed myself on social media about that, saying, that I had been non-compliant and everywhere I'm going, they're allowing me. I only had one small business owner that honestly, it was a shop and she just would have rather brought things out to me on the curb. And to me, like, that's just weird. That's like not the experience that I go to have when I go shopping. So I just, declined and kindly left the situation. But anyway, I vocalized this on social and I was a little scared, like I'm going to be honest, because I have seen, the public shaming videos of people not wearing a mask. That has not been my personal experience at all. I am so happy to say. And however, I will say this, before I leave the house every single time, I do, my stress levels do go up and I, really have to check myself and make sure that I'm not overly guarding myself as to, not project my insecurities around it, not the insecurities around the fear of contracting corona. I just want to put that out there. The fear of being shamed or guilted or, anything else. That's the fear, And so, and also for me, particularly, I'm quite vocal and outspoken. And so if a person challenges me on that, I really would love to say that I would just, walk away, but I don't know as though I would. I'm not saying that I would never attack that person or, go off on them, but I probably would deliver like a one-liner, type of situation. But anyway, so I want to share some things because I know that I'm not alone. I know that there are other people that don't believe in a lot of what is being talked about. And if you've listened to my other episodes, I've really held off for a long time on even really voicing my opinion on what's going on in the world. And I've done that on purpose because, sometimes initially we can believe one thing and those beliefs can change. But I am 100% really firm in what I see happening and what I disagree with. So I feel more confident and vocalizing that and just trusting that, that most likely is not going to change unless by some miracle, amazing information comes to the forefront and we see differently. But I don't think that's going to be the case. So anyway, I want to share with you kind of my experience. So basically, masks were not mandated in North Carolina until about 10 days ago. And obviously it's because cases are going up across the country. I'm sorry, you guys, but the only reason why that is because we were all on lockdown. It's only natural, but deaths are going down. Like, let's be honest, positive tests are going to go up. And if you understand the tests at all, you're going to know that the tests they haven't actually isolated the virus. They're actually testing for an RNA component that the majority of us have within our system. And depending on how many times you cycle the vial in the little testing device, it can turn it into a positive. So the testing around this it lacks a lot of integrity. So let's just start there. Okay. So, when they say that cases are increasing, it's, it's like, no shit. We all came out of lockdown. We're all together. Cases are going to increase. But deaths are not. And I believe symptomatic people are not. So that's what's important. Those are the numbers that are supposed to be concentrated on instead of just pushing the numbers of the cases. So anyway, that is why North Carolina had recently changed its tune. They felt that they needed to mandate masks, which is so weird because all of our, anyway. So I felt that I should express that on social media. And because, I had prepared myself for backlash from some people that had followed me just because, I know where they kind of stood on the issue. But honest to God, I feel that the majority of people that follow me are amazing. And I think that, they're amazing and that they believe that you do you, I'm going to do me. And I think that really that is the majority of people here. And unfortunately, that's not really what we see, right? We experience or we witness on mainstream media the extreme of everything. And I think that is such an important observation to make. I think I'm just going to put this out there. I have not watched the news and I have not had cable since 2010, I don't think. So I have not really watched any type of mainstream media for the past 10 years. And really, it really hasn't been until recently that I've kind of studied it. Obviously, I went to school for journalism, but what I mean is studied it recently with everything that's happening in the world, because it's so interesting to me. Things used to be presented, I'm 40 years old. I was born in 1980, and things used to be fact-checked, created, or they used to be delivered in a very balanced, objective point of, I don't even want to say point of way. No, they were just delivered in a very balanced, objective way. And that has completely changed. Most mainstream media is, it's literally just commentary. So much of it is just commentary. It really is not news. And it's crazy because I remember when I went to school for journalism, we were taught that you had to have, when you wrote an article, one, you had to have a balanced perspective, meaning that you couldn't just, if you had tried to get in touch. So the thing is if you were going to present a news article, you had to have 3 sources on the one side and then 3 sources on the other side. Now it's basically they're just taking a person's word, that's it, and they're just getting one source, and that's it. And a lot of it is not even being fact checked. And let's not even get into the fact that now we live in a highly digital world where media is created on the fly And, they receive videos from all of these different sources. And then they literally edit, I think that really people underestimate how far technology has come to really, you can edit videos incredibly, um, you know, they can edit them incredibly well for them to basically push whatever they think their news story is. And so it's just really weird kind of stepping back into watching mainstream media and seeing what is essentially being delivered. And the common denominator that I have found is that fear and entertainment are the only things really being delivered. That's it. Um, and so I was prepared because I had seen the extreme, the very extreme representation of what was going on in these incidents of people not wearing masks in public. And so, needless to say, I was ready for the backlash on the social platforms, as well as, in real life. It's weird that I have to make that differentiation, but it's the world we live in. So anyway, I do want to share a couple of things that I have experienced. For the most part, I feel that going into grocery stores has not been difficult without a mask. Yes, people are looking at me, but I feel very grounded in myself, knowing that they're probably not looking at me. They may be looking at me because they're noticing that I'm not wearing a mask, but I don't think they're looking at me and having negative thoughts going through their head about me not wearing a mask. I think generally speaking, everybody really does have the mindset of you do you, I'll do me. But at the same token, I think a lot of people are kind of curious when you're not wearing a mask, because they kind of are like, well, what makes you different? What makes you special? Why don't you have to do this? And what's interesting about that is, I think if we look at the way that all of our information is packaged and delivered to us, we had something that we quote unquote didn't know about. I personally don't believe that. I'm under the impression that this virus has been active in the US for at least 4 years. They have been studying it actually right here in North Carolina at Chapel Hill. So I don't really believe that this is new. And do I believe that it could have been manipulated into a bioweapon? Sure. That's definitely a possibility. Can I speak on that? No, because I am not a biologist or a virologist. So, I look at it and I feel that in the beginning, the way that it was presented to us was it was this thing that was external from us, and we thought China had just gotten themselves in trouble. And then, it so-called made its way here. I'm saying all of this because I feel everything is speculation, because they're really, after I've kind of, I don't know, you guys, I feel like everything is compromised because this country works predominantly on money. That fuels basically everything. So a lot of this, I'm saying very, flexibly, I don't feel like that there's essentially any truth to anything that I'm saying. So this information was presented to us. It had a lot of holes in it. There was a lot of, well, we don't, we think. Mind you, nobody said, I don't know. What happened to just us being able to say, I don't know? There's so much value in that. And honestly, if a freaking leader said to me, I don't know, their value rating in my mind would just go right up, because the humility, right? Am I the only one who thinks this? A true leader really has no fucking idea. They really don't. So anyway, there was a lot of holes in pockets. And what was interesting is, as those holes in pockets, started getting filled in, we didn't react accordingly, ever. And we still aren't. We're still perpetuating this illusion of security, believing that safety actually exists, in which it doesn't. That is part of our that is part of our agreement. That is part of our contract when we come here, is that we understand that we are, here to have a human experience. There are no guarantees in this experience. You literally could have been born and died within a week. You could have been born and died within 3 years. You could have been born and died, after 90 years. There's no guarantee. And so really, I just started to see them kind of immediately jump on the bandwagon of wanting to create a product to secure or to sell you on the illusion of safety and security. And that was when my, honestly, to be 100% honest, I thought we were overreacting from the beginning. But when I started to see Bill Gates everywhere, I was like, okay, yeah, this is not about health. This is not about a virus. This is about money. That's what this is about. And I should have known better, because I feel like anything that the US takes time to drill into our heads over and over through the use of mainstream media and other media outlets, because there are others who do the same thing, it's usually just to sell you something that you're feeling insecure about, which corporations have been doing that for centuries. Women and men both know this. Doesn't matter if they do it in the cosmetic aisle of your, it's like, hello, or if they do it through fitness. We are being marketed to all the time based on our insecurities, and feeling protected and secure and safe is an insecurity that every single human being has. Why? Because it is something that is part of our soul contract while we are here. We have to be willing to come into this life with a certain amount of uncertainty. It's a given. We have no idea what's going to happen to us. We experience pain, pleasure equally. Like some would even say that it doesn't even balance out in this lifetime. You can experience a tremendous amount of pain and sorrow in this lifetime, and then maybe make it up in another lifetime. We have no idea. Or the opposite, where your life is very pleasurable and very comfortable, and you don't experience a lot of sorrow and pain. We're incarnated with the okay that we're not necessarily going to be okay. And so they understand that, they know that, and they know how to use the human condition against us. And I want to say they and us very freely, because please understand, I completely understand that we are all one, and that what I am seeing is a projection of myself. I'm not denying my shadow. I'm seeing it all. I understand that. I'm just talking about it in a 3D aspect, and, a way that most people can comprehend what's going on. So the reason why I'm talking about all this is because I think it's really important, for one, that maybe you understand why I came to the resolution that I did. And also, simply because I believe that what I do with my body is my choice. And for us to make the argument that somebody else should be responsible for our health is a negligible one. It is irresponsible. When I get in my car and when I drive, I am trusting others blindly to make smart decisions driving their cars. That doesn't always happen. We get into accidents, people get hurt, people get killed. Same thing with a lot of other things. I trust that people are going to make my food properly. Excuse me. I trust that, when I go get my hair cut, that they're going to do it right. There are so many things that we hand over our trust on the daily basis. You trust that somebody's not going to poison your coffee. You trust that people aren't hiring like crazy psychopaths. You trust that the people that belong in prison are going to stay in prison. You trust the justice system. You trust law enforcement to do their jobs. I'm not hitting that on purpose. I'm just using it as an example. We trust parents to discipline their kids. We trust our educators to take care of our children for 6 to 8 hours a day. Mind you, you're not only just trusting the teacher, the educator, but you're trusting the entire system to give your children the education so that when they are older, they can actually go out into the world and do something. These are decisions that we make every single day. There are no guarantees here in life. And so it has been my personal choice to remain in the trust of understanding that my body is efficient. It has its own way of healing. And I've been taking care of it since I was 18. I've been managing my own health. Now, does that not mean, because you can make the argument, well, what about doctors? Like, doctors help you? Yes, they do. Yeah, they do. But surprisingly, and I'm just going to go on the record and say this, I personally don't agree with a lot of conventional medicine anymore. And the reason for that is because I feel like that there are greater alternative options that are better for myself long term. And I know that there is a lot of money in big pharma. And so for me personally, I chose to retain the right not to wear a mask. And I understand that even though it is mandated by a government official, they cannot enforce it by law. And until they do, I understand that my compliance is whether or not I choose to comply is important. It's an important one. Because what I do know about creating a new product is that market research is always done. Corporations do not create a product unless they know that there is a need for it. And they usually fill the need, and then they do a focus group. They bring in a diverse group of individuals for them to have them review the products. And then those individuals give, their feedback in open discussion being really important here, because that is where this is not a focus group. That is where they are manipulating, and you can see like we're not having a choice. So, the corporations, they bring it to the focus group. They say, okay, here's the product. Let us know where we can be better, where, anything, basically, any type of feedback that you have about this, we want to know about it. And then they get together and they openly discuss and they criticize and all of that. And it's strongly encouraged. Here it is not. And so this is where it's a problem, because we're not having a choice. We're not having a choice of seeing, okay, you had this thing that you thought we were going to need an answer or a product for. And they, in some ways, are creating these products, these solutions. And rather than encouraging open discussion, they are censoring a lot of people and removing them from basically having any type of influence. It doesn't matter what platform you are. People are being censored, plain and simple. If they don't fall in alignment with what they are wanting to promote and sell, then they are being censored. And it doesn't take a big name. I know at least one person within my peer group who has been censored. So, and they have a relatively small following on Instagram. So, this is where I have arrived to my personal choice in retaining that choice. So I guess part of my reason for, quote unquote, outing myself on Instagram was because I felt that we had arrived to a place where there's been a decent amount of information that has unfolded around this. And I was starting to run into other people who were not wanting to comply as well. But they were scared. They were trapped in fear. They wanted to feel as if, they didn't want to fear going to the store. It's like they wanted to make the decision not to wear the mask, but they were scared They were scared of the shaming. And so I want to express a couple of my experiences to maybe relieve that if you are contemplating taking, deciding that you don't want to comply anymore and further perpetuate this, false idea of security and safety. So, yeah, basically, it was kind of easy in the beginning. I did have to kind of boycott some places. I had to boycott, going to name names, Costco. I have a membership there. You cannot obviously go in without a mask. So I choose to just not go at all. Where else? There was one other place that I couldn't go in. Oh. I tried going into Pottery Barn because I kind of wanted to test. They were only allowing 10 people in the store, and they had all of this signage on the outside of their building. And I remembered the first time that I went, I actually chickened out. I got really discouraged from seeing a whole bunch of signage, and I chickened out. And what happened was I returned a week later because I was just like, fuck it. I really didn't need anything, but I figured Pottery Barn was like a good testing ground for a retail store that I felt would pose a problem. And so I just wanted to see how they reacted, because then I felt like it would have given me some indication as to how other stores would react. But this is, again, when masks were just encouraged, they weren't mandated. So when I went back in a week later, they greeted me. The woman, she was only letting in 10 people at a time. When I walked up to her, I believe that there was one other guy that wasn't wearing a mask. When I walked up to her, she greeted me kindly. She didn't say anything, and she let me right in the store. It was a non-issue. The issue really never, it was never really an issue until the mandated started. And I'll tell you the first experience was I was going to Trader Joe's, and I happened to get there early enough where there were already people in the store, but there wasn't like a line, because they're managing, I don't know if you're aware, but they're managing how many people are in the store. And so I got in line, and she had asked me if I wanted a cart, and I said, yes, please. And then she asked me if I had a mask, and I said no. And she asked me if I needed or wanted one, and I said, no, thank you. She gave me the cart, and I went inside. That was that. It was only until I went to a small retail shop here in town that I had walked in, and she didn't even greet me. She just flat out was like, do you have a mask? There was nobody else in the store besides her and another employee, both which were standing behind the register more than 6 feet away from me, probably more like 18 feet. And she had asked me if I had a mask, and I said no. And I said, is that going to be a problem? And I didn't say it, I wasn't like, no, is that going to be a problem? I was just like, no, is that going to be a problem? And she said, well, would you mind if we brought them out to you on the curb? Like, we could just it was a flower shop, but they also had like home type, I guess, like home good, just like, decorative stuff. And I had heard great things about it. And so I had never been there, and I wanted to go. And so she had offered, to bring some stuff out on the curb, but I really wasn't like looking for something specific. And, not for nothing, but we've been in lockdown. So getting out and just being able to participate and, support my local businesses, it's not only that I want to support them, it's also just nice for me. It's like, we're starting to integrate and like get back into just like quote unquote normalcy. And I wanted that experience. And so when she was just like, we would feel more comfortable if we could just bring stuff out to you, I just said, I kindly said, no, thank you. And she was like, are you sure? And I said, yeah, I'll pass. And I walked out the door. I'm not even going to fake it. I was upset about that. I was sad. I was downright sad. I immediately contacted one of my friends afterwards, the friend who actually, had said very great things about them. And I just was disappointed, but do I think that she's making the wrong decision for her business? I don't really want to cast that judgment. I believe that the choice needs to remain in our hands. And as a small business owner, she gets to make that call. If I I can't say that I want to strip that right away from her, because if I owned a business, I would want to be able to choose the opposite, because that's personally how I feel. And yes, I know I would be possibly sacrificing the livelihood of my business for, to stand in my beliefs and to stand in that integrity. But I feel, that I would be willing to do that. But again, I'm not everybody, and I don't have um, I feel like some people don't have that luxury, or they just, think that that's what's best. They genuinely just think that that's what is best right now. So I had no negative feelings towards her. It was just unfortunate, and I was just sad because I really did want to support a local business. And I know, a lot of arguments could be, well, Kim, if you wanted to really support a local business, you could have just thrown on a mask. And I think at the end of the day, you, in some ways, you're absolutely right. But on the, but on the same side, it's kind of like, okay, but that's the same argument as saying, well, if the business really wanted to sell something, then they could have just let you in the store. It goes so much more beyond that. At least it does for me. I have always, um, you can ask. I mean, my mom, I feel like she knows ever since I was a kid. It's not only that, I can be a little stubborn, but it's, I'm more stubborn when it comes to my own principles and my integrity around that. And that may be a flaw. That may be something that I might have to do some work around in the near future. I might have to look into that and maybe feel differently, create, I don't know, just maybe like excavate that a little bit. But right now I feel that it's really, really important for me. And I stand by my decision. Now, the other experience that I want to share with you was last night. I went to a local ice cream shop here in town, and they have really great ice cream. and I went to go get a cone. And of course, like everywhere else, it says masks are required. I feel that most business owners, I know that's what they have to do. So I go up, and there's a line, but the line majorly makes up, there's like 7 people in a family. And the majority, I mean, I don't even think that there was a kid under the age of like 13 or 14. So it was like a bunch of teenagers and maybe 2 sets of parents or something like that. But anyway, I get in line, and they said to me, because I was alone, they were like, do you want to get ahead of us? And I said, no, that's not necessary. I'm not even sure if they'll serve me. And they said to me, the father had asked, oh, do you need or want a mask? Or he says, do you need a mask? And I said, no, I don't need a mask. And I said it, kind of like with a smirk on my face and a little bit of a, laugh starting. And he had a mask, but it was like, he had it below his chin, like a placeholder. It's so weird. So anyway, but he chuckled, and he said to me, he goes, well, he's like, I said, no, I don't need a mask. And I said, but if you, if you want to order an ice cream cone for me, I'd greatly appreciate it. And at that time he said, you know what, get in front of us, and if they give you a hard time, we will gladly get your cone for you. And I said, really? I'm like, that's so amazing. I'm like, you guys are awesome. And he goes, or I said, really? That would be amazing. And he goes, absolutely. He said, we've got you. And I'm like, wow, that was amazing. So I get in front of them, and sure enough, the ice cream place served me. So, it was a really beautiful experience. And every single, that entire family was wearing masks. And this is what I want to focus on, because in honest to God, the 4 months that 3 or 4 months that we've been in this experience, I've had far more good experiences, great experiences really, than negative experiences. And I feel like that we don't talk about that enough, or at least it's not discussed enough, because uh, because problems are easier to focus on, usually because they bring up issues for us, and then we react from that place. We react from trauma. And I think that we need to understand that a little bit more clearly. That's why we can kind of be drawn into negative situations. You can be having a great day, and then somebody can send you something, and then you just, you just kind of become consumed by it. And you like want to change it, or you become righteous. And I am I love speaking my mind, so I feel that I am I'm very guilty of that. Clearly. Clearly I love speaking my mind. Here I am. But I think that it's really, really important to see that there is still plenty of unity and support and love, and people, I believe, always, I will believe this always, 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 always. People are inherently good. They are inherently good. We have to understand that when people are traumatized, they're reacting. They're reacting because essentially a need or healing has gone so severely unmet or denied that they are kind of stuck in that loop of just responding from that same space. And I think it's important for us to realize that when you have a collective of people who are extremely influential, or can be extremely influential, so whether we're talking the government, or whether we're talking mainstream media, whether we're talking corporations, because it is my true belief that it is the corporations, they're real big, they're really the game players in all of this. When we have a collective of people that is so influential, they can do, unfortunately, a lot of damage. And they do that damage by inciting fear. And they, whatever way that they choose to present that, it's up to them, right? I really feel like it's just whatever is going to make them money. But we have to understand that when people, we are vulnerable human beings. We are emotionally vulnerable. And when somebody plays on our insecurities and our emotions, we become highly malleable. And if I'm to be honest, what I saw play out, whether it was from government officials, whether it was from mainstream media, was from the beginning, or whoever, a person, unfortunately, there has been a lot of abuse. A lot of abuse. I have seen government officials manipulate, and then when people challenged that manipulation or called out that manipulation, I saw those same government officials, gaslight. And then what happens is when that becomes a thing, when it becomes regular and you get exposed to certain phrases over and over again, and certain, authority pushes back on your challenge, then you get tired. It wears you down. You accept it more as your quote unquote new normal. And I really want all of us to understand that this is no different than experiencing trauma from a loved one, because we don't understand that we kind of, I don't even know if this is a word, but we parentify the government. We rely on them, we depend on them. We also rely and depend on mainstream media to tell us what we think is, what's going on, what we think is going on. And so we look to them the same way that we would look to a parent or somebody that we were dependent upon, a romantic partner, things like that. And it may not be love, but we still have handed over that authority, and we have created that type of we've kind of created a weird relationship with them without them ever actually working for it or earning it. That is something that we're taught. Trusting the government and putting our authority in them to make decisions that are in our best interest, that is something that is conditioned, programmed in us from the time that we are young. There are many ways in which this is done. It's primarily done through our parents' belief systems when we are, when we come into the world, and then it's fulfilled even further and perpetuated even further by the education system, and then, it just continues on from there. But I think what we don't understand is when we get caught in these when we're traumatized by those individuals, it's hard for us to see clearly because we're stuck in the idea that, one, they would never do that because they care for us. Two, we feel that we don't have, there's no other way. There's no other alternative. I hate to use the domestic violence example, but basically what we have here is if you looked at the general public, they would be a woman or a man being physically abused by their father or mother, which is the government. And when you're dependent on that government, or when you're dependent on that parent, you literally feel like you have to put up with it because they're going to take away. They're going to take, you're dependent on them. What are you going to do for food? What are you going to do, for anything else that they would fulfill? And so it's really only when you can identify it as being trauma and start healing yourself from that you can start to gain some clarity and see things a lot more clearly and start to realize, holy cow, there's another way. I don't have to subject myself to this shit anymore. We all have seen somebody be in a toxic relationship. A toxic, no matter what level it is, right? Whether it's romantic but let's just say romantic because it's a little bit easier, right? We've all seen people in toxic relationships, and we've all sat there and we've all casted our judgment, and we've all said, I don't know why he or she puts up with that shit. It's because we think that we have to receive whatever it is we need in return. Or we're so deep in the trauma, in the cycle, that we can't even see it clearly. We can't see it for what it is. And this is really important. It's really important because I think and maybe I'm wrong, and if I am, please let me know. But I think predominantly, really, the only reason why people are actually complying to what is happening, to the requirements that are being, pushed, is because they think that there's validity in it, for one. But I think the majority of people don't believe that anymore. I think for the majority, it's because they think that that's what they have to do. I really think that it's they're scared. At least that's what I've seen. Or they feel like there's no need to shake the boat. It's just a mask. It's so funny how we minimize something. It's really, really interesting because I was thinking about the usage of the word just. We use it all the time. And the only time that we ever use it is to justify another person's actions. It's amazing. It's really, really amazing. We're just making excuses. What if you removed the word just out of that sentence? It's a mask. Yeah, it's a mask. I guess I'm creating this episode for a couple of reasons, to share with you, obviously, where I am on all of this, but also to, say to you that if you are contemplating not complying anymore, or like you want to, but you're scared, or you don't want to make other people uncomfortable, or, you don't want to deal with the criticism or the shame, that is only shit that the media has, blasted all over. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. It exists to the same level that Corona exists. Let's just say that on a factual basis. It's real. It happens. But it definitely is not, it doesn't have to necessarily be your experience. And I would dare go so far as to say that it's not the majority of the experiences that I have had, or that I know that others have had. So if you're feeling like that you want to do that, I guess I'm like just sitting here offering my support, sharing my experience. I really feel like that there's a lot of, I don't know if you're familiar, but there is a lot, there's a lot going on spiritually right now too. There's definitely a great awakening that is occurring. We can certainly, there's lots of things that I've seen, unfortunately, that I disagree with in that arena around everything too. We can ascend as human beings, but we are essentially in life form, and that is what we have agreed to. And there's, I believe that there's a reason for that. I don't believe that we should just participate in spiritual bypassing and toxic positivity and just stand by. I think the idea behind ascension is to use what you acquire from that ascension to step more into who you are truly, and to offer that here in whatever context that you feel called. And that context changes. I know for me, it does. It changes like on the daily. There are days in which I am far more vocal. There are days in which I am far more silent. There are days in which I, want to rage against the machine. And then there are days in that I know that is in that day or in that particular moment, that is not what is being asked of me. But, we have to understand that if you are seeing things consciously, spiritually unfold, we have to allow that room for everybody. We have to honor that everybody is going through their own process, and we have to understand that everybody has a role to play in this. If this is truly what a lot of us think it is, which is the beginning, then we just need to stay in our lane. But that doesn't mean that your lane doesn't involve speaking to others. So I think I'm done. I feel that I have said everything that I need to say, and that was asked of me to say. Yeah, I guess that's it. I always feel like I end these podcasts so abruptly. But if you guys have any questions for me, or if you are feeling unsupported, really in any way of your life, I have started offering guidance. You can find my offering sessions, or my sessions, my guidance sessions and other offerings on my website. If you go to kimberlydam.com, or if you just want to email me directly, it's connectedpodcast.us@gmail.com. You can reach me that way. But I hope that this episode has served you in some way. And, just know that you're never, ever alone. And if you need support, it's just a matter of you asking for it. That's it. And being able to receive it. Allowing yourself to receive it. Okay? I wish you well.